As you know that I have completed ISO 45001 occupational health and safety lead auditor training, and I have uploaded 3 parts already for this training, and in those 3 parts we have discussed about the different clauses that we have to maintain for ISO 45001 and the different documents that we have to maintain. And I have informed you how you can maintain the documentation, records, evidence, and what you have to do. So that part is already covered, and we have finished ISO 45001 2018 lead auditor training. So we have covered so far clause number 4 to 10, and there are total 10 clauses. These 3 clauses, first 3 clauses are not auditable, but next 7 clauses that we have to do the audit. Now that is the part of the ISO 45001, all the clauses that we have to follow. Now I will give you the brief introduction and information about auditing, how you have to do the audit. When you are conducting the audit, whether you are conducting internal audit or external audit, there are some criteria that you have to follow. So the simple is that you can follow this document, which is ISO 19011, which will tell you about the guidelines for auditing management system, how you can do the audit, effective audit. Okay, so that I will teach you in this training. So let's go through this training, and please do not forget to subscribe my channel if you haven't subscribed my channel, and please do share with your friends and colleagues as well, and please provide your support. So thank you so much. So let's start our training. So I will directly go the different clauses for this standard. I will not go that much detail in this training. I will upload this document. You can go one by one all the clauses which you want to get more information, but I will provide you very detailed information and the important information that will be very crucial and important to your audit. So it has 7 clauses. First, scope, normative references, terms and definitions will be there. 1, 2, 3, and principles of auditing will be there in clause number 4. Then clause number 5 talk about the managing an audit program, how you can manage an audit program. Then how you can conduct an audit, clause number 6. Once you conduct the audit, competence and evaluation of auditors. So you have to make sure that the auditor who's conducting the audit, they are competent, and you have to evaluate the competency of auditors also. Okay, so that you have to check. So let's start. So introduction, this is not important. Then the scope is nothing much, normative reference, there is nothing. And you can go through the clause number 3 that will tell you about the definitions. So different definitions will be there. What is audit program, audit scope, audit plan, description. Audit plan is the description of activities and elements of an audit, audit criteria. So all these terms that you have to use during the audit and the audit program, and the audit process also. Objective evidence, audit evidence. So all these terms are explained here. Audit client, auditee, audit team, auditor, technical expert, observer. So all these definitions are here. So let's start with clause number 4. The clause number 4 is talking about the principles of auditing. Auditing is characterized by reliance on a number of principles. These principles should help to make an audit effective, and you have to follow these principles. So let's see what are those principles. Main principles are, the first one is integrity, the foundation of professionalism. Auditors and the individuals managing an audit program should perform their work ethically, with honesty and responsibility. So it is a requirement of audit program that any person who is conducting the audit, they should maintain the professionalism. They should conduct the audit ethically, honesty, and responsibility. Only undertake audit activities if they are competent. If they are not competent to do so, they should not conduct any audit. Perform their work in an impartial manner. Fair presentation, the obligation to prompt truthfully and accurately. So whatever the findings you will observe during the audit, that you have to mention in the report accurately and truthfully. There should not be any false information in the audit report. Professional care, the application of diligence and judgment in auditing. Auditors should exercise due care in accordance with the importance of the task they perform and the confidence placed in them by the audit client and other interested parties. An important factor is carrying out their work with the due professional care is having the ability to make respond judgment and all audit situation. So whenever you are conducting an audit, you have to show the due professional care. And whatever the points you are raising during the audit, that should be like proper evidence should be there and proper judgment that you can show. Confidentiality, security of information. During the audit program, you will come to know about the different information and the confidential information and very important information which is very crucial for the organization. It is your responsibility as an auditor that you are making the confidentiality and the security of those information. Those information and security should not and confidential information should not be shared with anybody else. So that is your requirement and that is your responsibility that you have to follow. Independence. Whenever you are conducting any audit, the audit should be independence. It should not be pressurized by someone else or some group. So that's why when you're doing the audit, you have to make sure that you are not doing the audit of any department where you are working physically or in the, where you are involving with any activities or services directly. So if you are working in audit department or HSA department, you are not supposed to audit your own department. Someone else in the different department, they should audit you. So that is called independence. Evidence-based approach. As you know that audit is purely based on evidence. Without evidence, you cannot raise any point. So when you are raising any point, when you are talking, there should be proper evidence that you have to show to the auditee. Risk-based approach, an audit approach that considers risk and opportunities. The risk-based approach should substantially influence the planning, conducting, and reporting of audits in order to ensure that audits are focused on matters that are significant for the audit client and for achieving the audit program objectives. When you are raising the points during the audit, you have to consider the risk and opportunities. What are the risks if the auditee they will not follow that one? So that you have to identify during the audit. Managing an audit program. Clause number 5. An audit program should be established as we discussed during our ISO 45001 lead auditor training in previous clause number 9 that I explained you that you have to maintain audit program, audit process that will include addressing one or more management system standards requirements and plan of audit, frequency of audit, who is going to do the audit, criteria, all this information should be there. In order to understand the context of this audit, the audit program should take into account the organizational objectives. So when you are conducting the audit, these are the things you have to consider that we have discussed already in our part 3, lead auditor training, ISO 45001. The planning of internal audit programs and in some cases, programs for auditing external providers can be arranged to contribute to other objectives of the organization. It's not that much important. Audit program should include information and identity resources enabled to do the audits effectively within the specified time frame. So when you are making a process for the audit, internal audit or external audit, you should include about the resources that you need to conduct the audit effectively. The resources could be objectives for the audit program, risk and opportunity associated with the audit program, scope, schedule, audit types, such as internal or external audit criteria, audit methods to be employed, criteria for selecting audit team members, how you're going to select the audit team members, relevant documented information. So how you have to conduct the audit? It is a plan, do, check, act cycle. Audit program objectives that you have to plan. Clause number 5.3, determining and evaluating audit program risk and opportunities, establishing audit program, implementing audit program, monitoring audit program, and reviewing and improving audit program. That is the clause number 5.7. After then, initiating audit, preparing audit activities, conducting audit activities, preparing and distributing audit report that you have to do. After then, once you do, you circulate the audit report, completing audit, Then monitoring audit program that you have to monitor. After then act. You have to act, conducting audit follow-up that you have to check. Stabilizing audit program objectives. So when you are making a audit process SOP, in that SOP and the process, you have to mention the audit objectives. Why you are doing the audit? What is the requirement of audit? What are the objectives that you're going to achieve through the audit that you have to mention? So when you are mentioning the objectives of the audit, you have to consider the following: needs and expectation of relevant interested parties, both internal and external; characteristic of and requirements of process, product, services, management system requirements; need for evaluation of external providers; auditor's level of performance; identify risk opportunities; results of previous audits. Example of audit program objectives can include the following. These are the examples of audit program objectives. Identify opportunity for the improvement of a management system and its performance. Evaluate the capability of the auditor to determine its context. So these are the examples that you can include in your audit program. Now, determining and evaluating audit program risk and opportunities. There can be risk associated with the following. So when you are evaluating the audit program risk and opportunities, there could be following risk associated. Planning, example, failure to set relevant audit objectives. Maybe the objectives which you have identified that is not relevant to the business, that is not adequate to the services, that is the risk. Determining the extra number, duration, location, and schedule of the audits. Resources may be not allowed, not given. Time, equipment that not given. Selection of the audit team not selected properly as per their skills and knowledge and competency. Communication, audit program not communicated properly, and implementation, ineffective coordination of the audits within the audit program. Control of documented information, example, ineffective determination of the necessary documented information required by auditors. Monitoring, reviewing, and improving the audit program. And availability and cooperation of auditing and availability of evidence to be sampled. Now, stabilizing the audit program, roles and responsibility of individual managing the audit program. So this is your roles and responsibilities if you are managing any audit program as an auditor. Establish the extent of the audit program according to the relevant objectives. So you have to make an audit program. Determine the external and internal issues when you are setting the audit program. Ensuring the selection of audit team, you have to select the audit team. What are the team members you need in your audit team? Establish all relevant processes, including processes for the coordination, establishment of audit objectives, evaluating auditors. So these are the things. And after that, determining and ensure provision of all necessary resources. So what are the resources you need to conduct an audit that you have to identify as an auditor also? Ensure that appropriate document information is prepared. Before you start any audit, you have to prepare some documentation also that should include the audit objectives, audit plan, audit team, resources, timing, duration of the audit. All these things should be included. Monitor, review, and improve the audit program. That is, as an auditor, that you have to do. Communicate the audit program to the audit client and as appropriate relevant interested parties. So before conducting any audit, you have to communicate the audit plan, audit program to the audit team. You have to make sure that relevant interested parties communicated for the audit. Clause number 5.4.2, competence of individual managing audit program. So this clause specifically talk about the competency of the auditor. Audit principles and method process. So external and internal issues effectively, the auditor should have the necessary competence to manage the program. Its associated risk and opportunities, external and internal issues effectively and efficiently, including knowledge of audit principles. The auditor should have the knowledge of audit principles, methods and process, management system standards and other relevant standards, information regarding the auditing and its context, internal, external issues, relevant interested parties, the needs and expectations, applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, legal law, as appropriate knowledge of risk management, project and process management, information and communication technology may be considered. Specializing extent of audit program. Now, you have to establish the audit program. Factors impacting the extent of an audit program can include the following. So these are the ones that you can include in the audit program, as we have discussed already. Other things you can include in the audit program. These are the other things that you can consider in your audit program. Language, cultural, and social issues, a result of previous audit program review. So all these things you can include. And significant change of the auditor's context or its operations and relevant risk and opportunities, availability of information and communication, the occurrence of international events. After that, you have to determine the audit program resources. So what are the resources you need to conduct an audit? When you are checking the resources, these are the things you have to consider to conduct an audit. The financial and time resources necessary to develop. Maybe you need the time, money to develop, implement, and manage and improve audit activities. Audit methods, the individual and overall capability of auditors, availability of auditors, technical expert, the extent of the audit program, travel time. Maybe you need to travel, you need some cost, you need some money, accommodation, the impact of different time zones. Maybe you are auditing in different countries, so the time zones may be different. The availability of information, communication, and technology, availability of any tools, technology, and equipment that you require to conduct an audit. The availability of necessary documented information as determined during the establishment of the audit program. Requirements related to the facility, including any security clearance that you need to enter the auditing facility, and maybe you need some equipments. Clause 5.5, they talk about the implemented audit program. Once the audit program has been established, once you establish the audit program, audit plan, related resources have been determined. You have determined what are the resources you need to conduct an audit. Then you have to start the audit. The individual managing the audit program should communicate relevant parts of the audit program and including the risk and opportunities involved to the auditee parties. You have to define the objective, scope, and criteria of each individual audit. So when you are defining the objectives, what is the objective of the audit? Why you are doing this audit? Second, scope of the audit. What is the scope of the audit? Maybe you will not go audit all the department. Maybe you will leave the transport department. Maybe you will include all departments. So that is the scope that will come in the audit. Criteria. What is the criteria of audit? How you want to do that? And after that, you have the selected audit methods. How you do the audit? Coordinate and schedule audits and other activities relevant to audit program. Ensure the audit teams have necessary competence. So you have to, when you are selecting the audit team, you have to check their competence, whether they are competent to conduct an audit or not. Necessary individual and overall resources to the audit team. When you are conducting the audit as a lead auditor, you have to make sure that your audit team member, they have the proper resources and necessary individual and other things, overall resources to the audit teams. Ensure the conduct of audits in accordance with the audit program. You have to conduct the audit as per the audit program that you have developed and you have shared and communicated with the auditee. You are not allowed to go outside of the audit program. Managing all operational risk, opportunities, and issues during the audit. Ensure relevant documented information regarding the auditing activities are properly managed and maintained. Define and implement the operational controls necessary for audit program. Review the audit program in order to identify opportunities for its improvement that you have to review. Now, define the objective, scope, and criteria of an individual audit. You have to define these things: objectives, scope, and criteria. So, individual audit may include the following objectives: determine the extent of conformity of the management system to be audited or parts of it with the audit criteria. Evaluation of the capability of the management system to assess the organization in meeting relevant statutory and regulatory requirements. When you are making the audit program or audit plan or the process, all these things you can copy and you can put it in the process, so it will comply. And we have discussed some other objectives also of the audit and previous part, so that you can check also. Selecting and determining audit methods. Now you have to select the audit methods and you have to determine the audit methods. The individual managing the audit program should select and determine the methods for effectively and efficiently conducting an audit, depending on the defined audit objective, scope, and criteria. Audit can be performed on-site, remotely. The methods of audit, how you want to conduct the audit. Now, during the COVID time, so many organizations, they have conducted the audit remotely, online, or how you want to do that. On-site audit you want, or as a combination remotely or on-site, and on you, how you want to conduct it. That is the method of audit. Selecting the audit team members. So when you are selecting the audit team members, you have to make sure that overall competence of the audit team, the following steps should be performed. Identification of the competence needed to achieve the objectives of the audit. Selection of the audit team members, so the necessary competence is present in the audit team. In deciding the size and composition of the audit team for the specific audit, you have to consider the following thing. The overall competence of the audit team needed to achieve audit objectives, complexity of the audit, whether the audit is combined or joint audit, the selected audit methods, ensuring objectivity and impartiality to avoid any conflict of interest of the audit process, the ability of the audit team members to work and interact effectively with the representatives of auditee and relevant interested parties. The relevant internal and external issues, language of the auditor's social and cultural characteristics, type and complexity of the process to be audited. So these are the things you need to consider when you are selecting the audit team members. And audit team members, they should have the capabilities. They should be competent to conduct the audit as per these requirements. Assessing responsibility for an individual audit to audit team leader. The individual managing the audit program should assign a responsibility for conducting the individual to an audit team leader. So there should be an audit team leader whom we are calling a lead auditor. To ensure effective conduct of the individual audit, the following information should be provided to the audit team leader. So audit team leader should have these below information: audit objectives, audit criteria or any relevant document information, audit scope, audit process and associated methods, composition of the audit team, contact details of the auditee, the location, time frame, duration of the audit, activities to be conducted, resources necessary to conduct audit, information needed for evaluating and addressing identified risk opportunities to the achievement of the audit objectives. Information which support the audit team leader and their interactions with the auditee for the effectiveness of the audit program. So these are the requirements that need to be shared with the audit team leader, the lead auditor. So these information should be shared. Managing audit program results. After the audit, what is the result of the audit? How are you going to manage that one? The individual managing the audit program should ensure that the following activities are performed: evaluation of the achievements of the objectives for each audit within the audit program, review and approval of audit reports regarding the fulfillment of audit scope and objectives, review the effectiveness of actions taken to address audit findings, distribution of audit reports to relevant interested parties after the audit, determination of the necessity for any follow-up audit. So these are the things you have to perform after the audit. Managing and maintaining audit program records. Once the audit done, how you did the audit plan, opening meeting, closing meeting, all these things you have to manage as a record. Records related to the audit program such as schedule of audit, audit program objective and extent, those addressing audit program risk opportunities need to, and reviews of audit program effectiveness need to maintain. Records related to each audit such as audit plans and audit reports, objective audit evidence and findings, NC, non-conformity report, corrective and corrective actions report, corrections and corrective action reports, audit follow-up reports. Records related to the audit team covering the topic such as competence and performance evaluation of the audit team members. So you have to keep the record of the audit team members' competency also, maybe their training record, their certificates, their CVs. So all these things you have to maintain. Criteria for the selection of the audit teams and the team members, information of audit teams, maintenance and improvements of competence. Then you have the monitoring audit program. The individual managing the audit program should ensure the evaluation of audit program should be evaluated also. Whether the schedules are being met and audit program objectives are being achieved. The performance of the audit team members, what was the performance during the audit? The ability of the audit teams, feedback from the audit clients, sufficiency and adequacy of documented information in the whole audit process. Other factors you can include this one. Reviewing and improving audit program. After the audit, if there is any issues, if there are some something need to be reviewed or something need to be improved, that you have to review and you have to improve the audit program. Identification of areas and opportunities for improvement. All these things you have to consider when you are reviewing and improving your audit program. After then, conducting an audit. Clause number 6. This clause contains guidance on preparing and conducting a specific audit as part of the audit program. Initiating audit. The responsibility for conducting the audit should remain with the assigned team leader. Okay, it is the responsibility of team leader or lead auditor to conduct an audit or complete the audit. Establishing contact with auditee. It is the team leader responsibility to contact with the auditee whom you're going to audit. Confirm communication channels with the auditee's representatives. Confirm the authority to conduct the audit. You have to get the confirmation from the auditee to get the authority to conduct the audit. Provide relevant information on the audit objectives, that you have to get it from the auditee. Objectives, scope, criteria, methods, and audit team composition, including any technical experts. Request access to relevant information for planning purpose. Determine applicable statutory and legal requirements. Confirm the agreement with the auditee regarding the extent of the disclosure. Make arrangements for the audit, including the schedule. Determine any location-specific arrangements for access that you need. Health and safety, security, and confidentiality or other requirements that you have to follow during the audit at audit site. Agree on the attendance of observer and the need for guides or interpreters for the audit teams. So during the audit, maybe you need some guide to take you to the facility or the process, and you need some unique guide, so that you have to communicate with the auditee also, that you have to tell that you need a guide to take the process or go through the facility, that you have to request. Determine any areas of interest, concern, or risk to the auditee in relation to the specific audit. Resolve issues regarding composition of the audit team with the auditee or audit client. Determining feasibility of the audit. The determination of feasibility should take into consideration factors such as the availability of the following: sufficient and appropriate information for planning and conducting the audit, adequate cooperation from the auditee, adequate time and resources for conducting the audit. Preparing audit activities. Performing review of documented information. The relevant management system document information of the auditee should be reviewed in order to gather information. Before you are conducting the audit, you have to go through the documents that you're going to audit during the audit. So you can gather some information, you can make some notes that what you have to check during the audit, what is the process is there that you're going to audit. So a review, performing a review that you can do before the audit. After that, audit planning. You have to plan the audit. It should be a risk-based approach to planning. The audit team leader should adopt a risk-based approach to planning the audit based on the information in the audit program and the documented information provided by the auditor. So when you are doing the planning, the composition of the audit team and its overall competence that you have to check, the appropriate sampling techniques, how you're going to take the samples, opportunities to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the audit activities, the risk of achieving the audit objectives created by ineffective audit planning, the risk to the auditee created by performing the audit. So all these things you have to consider when you are planning the audit. Planning audits. Audit planning should address or reference the following objectives of the audit: audit scope, criteria, method, Audit criteria reference, the location of the audit, physical, virtual, how you want to do that, dates, expected time, activities to be conducted during the audit, including meetings with the auditors management, opening meeting and closing meeting, the need for the audit team to familiarize themselves with the auditor's facility and process, example by conducting tour of physical location, the audit methods to be used, including like virtual or site-based, roles and responsibility of the audit team members. You have the audit team members, you have to decide their roles and responsibility, what they're going to do, what area they will audit, what area you will audit. So all these things you have to explain them. The allocation of appropriate resources based upon consideration, you have to allocate the resources like time and any access, health and safety related requirement to between the audit team members. Audit planning should take into account as appropriate. These are the things you have to take into account when you are making a plan for the audit. These are the things you have to consider. Assigning work to audit team. As I explained you that during the audit, you have to assign the work to the audit team. You have to divide the audit team members that if there are 3 team members or 4 team members, which area you're going to audit, which area they're going to audit. These are the work you have to assign. Preparing documented information for audit. Physical or digital checklist during the audit, how you going to audit, whether you are going to use the standard, whether you're going to use the checklist, audit sampling details, audio visual information, all this information should be included. So that is the requirement during the audit. Conducting audit activities. Audit activities are normally conducted in a defined sequence as indicated figure 1. The sequence may be varied to suit the circumstances of specific audits. Assigning roles and responsibilities, guides and observer. During the audit, you will get the guide also. That guide will take you to the through the documentation process, through the different areas. So what is their roles and responsibilities that you have to explain also, and what is the roles and responsibility of the observers. Maybe you will take some of the observers, new audit team member, they will go with you to observe how you are doing the audit, and what is the roles and responsibilities, that also you have to explain during the audit to the auditee. Guides and observer may accompany the audit team with approvals from the audit team leader, audit client or auditee if required. They should not influence or interfere with the conduct of the audit. They are not allowed to interfere the audit. They will just only guide you, and observer just only observe you how you are conducting the audit. So this is the requirements. The responsibility should include assisting the auditors in identifying individuals to participate in the interviews and confirming timings and locations, arranging access to a specific location, auditee, ensuring the rules concerning location specific arrangements for access, witnessing the audit on behalf of the auditee, providing clarification or assisting in collecting information when needed. Conducting opening meeting. Before you start the audit, you have to conduct an opening meeting. The purpose of the opening meeting is to confirm the arrangements of all participants, auditee and audit team to the audit plan, introduce the audit team to their roles, ensure that all planned audit activities can be performed. So during the audit, before conducting the audit, you have to do the opening meeting. During the opening meeting, you have to go through all the audit plan, what you're going to audit, when you're going to audit timeline, scope of the audit, all these things you have to revise one more time. So you have to get the confirmation also. You have to introduce yourself. You have to make sure that introduce your team members also, and you have to give the chance to the auditee to introduce themselves as well. So these are the requirements during the opening meeting. Auditors management. Opening meeting should be held with the auditors management, where appropriate those responsible for the function or process to be audited. During the meeting, an opportunity to ask questions should be provided. So during the opening meeting, if the auditee want to ask some questions or any clarification, you can tell them so they can ask if they have any doubt. Information of the following items should be considered as appropriate during the opening meeting. The audit objectives, scope and criteria need to check, and one more time you have to confirm. Audit plan, formal communication channels between the audit team and the auditee, the language that you're going to use, auditee being kept informed of audit progress during the audit, availability of the resources, matters related to confidentiality, relevant access, health and safety, security, emergency, and other elements of the audit team for the audit team, activities on site that can impact or conduct of the audit. All these things you have to make sure it's communicated during the audit. Communicating during audit. So during the audit also you have to make sure that communication is keep going on when you are identifying any issue. So communication need to be ongoing process during the audit. It will be necessary to make formal arrangements for communication within the audit team as well as with the auditee, the audit client, and potentially with external parties, especially where statutory and regulatory requirements require mandatory reporting of non-conformities. Audit information availability and access. During the audit, you have to make sure that audit information is available and easily accessed to the auditors. And that should not be delay in the information. If there is any delay, then auditor, they have the right that they can raise the NC information. Reviewing documented information while conducting audit. The audit is relevant documented information should be reviewed to determine the conformity of the system as far as documented with audit criteria, gather information to support the audit activities. Collecting and verifying information. During the audit, auditor will collect the information, they will collect some evidence, and they will verify the information as per your process, as per your SOP, manual, and legal requirement. It's an overview of the typical process from collecting information to reaching audit conclusion. Source of information: collecting by means of appropriate sampling, audit evidence, evaluating against audit criteria, audit findings, reviewing, and audit conclusion. Generating audit findings. Audit evidence should be evaluated against the audit criteria. So when you are finding any any non-conformities or any issues, those non-conformities or issues should be determined, should be checked against the audit criteria, audit standards, okay, as per the clauses. As you know that we have gone through the 7 clauses, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These clauses need to check under which clause it is non-conformity. So that you have to check, and as per that one, you have to raise the non-conformity. Determining audit conclusion, preparation for closing meeting. After the audit, you have to do the closing meeting. In the closing meeting, you have to review the audit findings and you have to explain these audit findings to the auditee. Any other appropriate information collecting during the audit against the audit objectives. Agree on the audit conclusion. That is most important. You have to agree with the auditee. Taking into account the uncertainty inherent in the audit process. Prepare recommendations if specified by the audit plan. Discuss audit follow-up as applicable. So that you have to discuss during the closing meeting. So now you've done the audit. Content of audit conclusion. Audit conclusion should address issues such as the following: the extent of conformity with the audit criteria and robustness of the management system, including the effectiveness of the management system in the meeting the intended outcomes, the effectiveness, implementation, maintenance, and improvement of the management system, achievement audit objectives, similar findings made in different areas. So that you have to check. Closing meeting should be held to present audit findings and conclusion. Those responsible for the function or process which have been audited, the audit client, other members of the audit team, that should be present during the closing meeting. As appropriate, the following should be explained to the auditee in the closing meeting. So these are the things you have to explain. Advising that the audit evidence collected as was based on a sample. So you have to explain that the evidence of the audit, the evidence which you collected during the audit was based on a sample of the information available and is not necessarily fully representative of the overall effectiveness of the auditee's process. The method of reporting, how the audit findings should be addressed based on agreed process, possible consequences of not adequately addressing the audit findings, presentation of the audit findings and conclusion in such manner, and any related post-audit activities. So these you have to explain. Preparing and distributing audit report. You have to prepare and distribute the audit report after the audit objectives, audit scope that should be included in the audit report, identification of the audit client. These are the information should be included in the audit report. Audit report can also include refer to the following as appropriate. These are the information also that you can include in the audit report, the plan including the time schedule and the requirement, a statement of the confidential nature of contents, any implication of the audit program or subsequent audits. Distributing audit report. Once you prepare the audit report, you have to distribute the audit report with the auditee. The audit report should be issued within an agreed period of time, which you have agreed during the closing meeting. If it is delayed, the reason should be communicated to the auditee and the individual managing the audit program. Completing audit. The audit is completed when all planned activities have been carried out or as otherwise agreed with the audit client. Once you complete the audit should be follow-up. When you're going to do the follow-up audit, that you have to mention in your audit process also, maybe every 6 months, 3 months, or the next internal audit or the next external audit. So that you have to mention. So that was the audit, how you have to conduct the audit. So that was the requirement. Now, competence and evaluation of auditors. That is the clause number 7. As I explained you that the auditors who is going to conduct the audit, their competence should be checked also and need to be evaluated also. So the evaluation process should include 4 main steps. So these 4 main steps should be checked. Determine the required competence to fulfill the needs of the audit program. Establish the evaluation criteria. Select and appropriate evaluation methods. Conduct the evaluation. Now you have to conduct the evaluation. Select of audit members. Determining the needs of improved competence and ongoing performance evaluation for auditors. Auditors should develop and maintain and improve their competence through the CPD, continuous performance development, and regular participation in audits. That is one of the way of improving and making sure that they are up to date with the requirement. Determining the auditor competence. When you are determining the competence of the auditor, you have to check these things: the size, nature, complexity, products and services and process of auditees, the methods of auditing, and these requirements that you have to check. The personal behavior. Auditors should possess the necessary attributes. Ethical. When you are conducting the audit, the auditor should have these personal behavior, including ethical, fair, truthful, sincere, honest, and discreet, open-minded, willing to consider alternative ideas or points of view. It is not only that you have to give the instruction that yes, you have to do that one. It's not like that. You have to take the views from the auditees also. You have to listen their views also. So as per the conversation, you have to give the proper ideas. You should be diplomatic, tactful in dealing with individuals. Observant. You should observe, actively observing physical surroundings and activities. Receptive, aware of and able to understand situations. You should have these qualities. And versatile, able to readily adapt to different situations. Consistent and focused on achieving objectives. Decisive, self-reliant, able to act with fortitude, open to improvement, and culturally sensitive, collaborative, effectively interacting with others. So these are the requirements for the auditors' personal behavior. Knowledge and skills. The knowledge and skill necessary to achieve intended results of the audits that are expected to perform, that we have already communicated already. We check. Now the generic knowledge and skills to manage and system auditors. Auditors should have knowledge and skills in the areas outlined below. Auditor should be able to understand the types of risk and opportunities associated with auditing and the principles of the risk-based approach of auditing. So these are the things auditors should be able to do. Okay, plan, understand, collect information, So effective evidence need to collected. So these are the requirements for the auditors. This one also. Management system standards and other references. These are also the requirements for the auditor. Application of the standards of reference in different audit situations. All these are the requirements for the auditor. You can go through one by one and you can check what is the requirements for the auditors. These are not that much important, but you have to use these things during the audit. Discipline and sector specific competence of the auditors. The discipline and sector specific competence auditors should auditors include the following: management system requirements and principles and their applications. So these are the requirements for the auditors also. Now the generic competence of the audit team leader. There are certain requirements for the audit team leader also. The audit team leader should be competent to plan, audit, and assign audit tasks according to the specific competence of individual audit team members. These are the requirements. Principles. Achieving auditor competence. So the auditor should successfully completing training program that cover generic auditor knowledge and skills. They should have the training program also, certificates, and audit experience required under the supervision of an auditor competent in the same discipline. Achieving audit team leader competence. An audit team leader should have acquired additional audit experience to develop the competence described in 7.2.3.4. Stabilizing auditor evaluation criteria. The criteria should be qualitative, such as having demonstrated desired behavior, knowledge, or the performance and the skills. Selecting appropriate auditor evaluation method. The evaluation should be conducted using 2 or more methods given in table 2. So these are the auditor evaluation method that you can use to evaluate the auditor, whether they are competent or not. The auditor evaluation, maintaining and improving auditor competence. You have, as an auditor, you have to maintain your competency and you have to improve your competency. The continual professional development activity should take into account the following. When you are doing a CPD, that should include these things also as an auditor. So that's all for the audit program and how to conduct audit as a lead auditor, as a audit team leader. So those was the main requirement that you have to follow during the audit. Now, this one, additional guidance for auditors planning and conducting audit. Here are some more guidance and the information that if you want to go through, you can go through these requirements and you can get some more information. You can interact with the people or without interacting with the people, how you can conduct the audit. Process approach to auditing, professional judgment, performance research, verifying unconformities, sampling, judgment-based sampling. So there are different requirements. So that's all from my side for this training also. I hope you like this training and the information which I have shared you so far. And this is very important information and very important training topic that I have covered. Last 3 parts and this part also. Because in NEBOSH also, if you are doing any NEBOSH IZ or NEBOSH diploma, there is a specific requirement about the management system, how you're going to manage the system, occupational health and safety management system. So this training will be very helpful for you to achieve your certification or your diploma. And whether you are not doing any certification or diploma course and you are managing some system in your facility or your organization, then it will be also very helpful to manage the system. Or if you have any doubts regarding this management system, you can comment me and you can ask your questions and I will reply on them. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much for your time and patience. And please, if you haven't subscribed my channel, please do subscribe my channel and please share with your friends and colleagues as well. And please provide your support. Thank you so much.